Hi, this is Nan Lee. You're listening to the Quantum Leap podcast.
Greetings, Dr. Beckett. Welcome to the Quantum Leap podcast.
Theorizing that one could time travel within his own lifetime, Dr. Sam Beckett stepped into the Quantum Leap accelerator and vanished. He awoke to find himself trapped in the past, facing mirror images that were not his own, and driven by an unknown force to change history for the better. His only guide on this journey is Al, an observer from his own time, who appears in the form of a hologram that only Sam can see and hear. And so Dr. Beckett finds himself leaping from life to life, striving to put right what once went wrong, and hoping each time that his next leap will be the leap home.
You are listening to the Quantum Leap podcast. This is episode 128, Revisiting Camikazi Kid.
Welcome to the Quantum Leap podcast, everyone. I'm Christopher DeFilippis.
I'm Allison Pregler.
And I'm Matt Dale.
And today we're back to the OG, to the classic series. Today we're going to be talking about Season 1, Episode 8, Camikazi Kid, not Season 1, Episode 8, Fellow Travelers.
Wow.
Or was that Episode 9? Which one was Episode 8?
Numeracy. It's always fun here.
Episode 8 was Stand By Ben.
Oh, Stand By Ben. So it's weird that we're doing Season 1 episode, similar episode numbers on the same season of two different shows that are the same show.
Just
Mind
call
blown.
it Season 6, Ben. Ben? Ben? You're not Ben, you're Chris.
Ben from the year 2022?
You can call me Ben.
I know exactly who you are, Ben DeFilippis from the year 2022 or 3 or whichever it is.
I'm his less handsome cousin.
Anyway, who could compare to his rockin' hot bod, though?
I think that's a Kevin Kniff himself reference, is it not?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So, yeah, Camikazi Kid, back to Season 1 of the classic series. And we are also proud to bring you an encore of our interview with Holly Fields, who also appeared in this episode. God, that interview, I listened to it this afternoon. Albie sounds like a baby. And I think we did it. I think we did that. It had to be like almost 8 years ago now. It was right when they started.
Yeah, because
the original podcast.
They started doing it in order. And I think they did that pretty early on, like maybe after the Claudia Christian interview. She was the first one.
Yeah, Claudia was the first one.
December 12th, 2013.
Oh, 10 years ago.
10 years ago.
Well,
No,
I
nine
guess
and a bit.
less, a little over 9, we should say.
Yeah.
I guess it makes sense then that Holly wished everybody a happy new year and a happy holiday at the end of the...
She just seems awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a sweetie.
Yeah, so it's a fun interview, and they talk about the one thing that you are going to want her to talk about.
Oh, yeah,
so
yeah.
You'll hear all about that. It's one thing that we're definitely going to talk about, but let's just get into it, guys. Let's do some, before we get into it, can I just say what a pleasure it was to just sit down and watch an episode of Quantum Leap. It was just a joy. It was a delight to go back to the classic series and to sort of get back, like, connected into why we started this podcast in the first place, because I'm enjoying the new show, but it's such a different experience watching and talking about the new show. This is why I started podcasting. This is why I love to get on mic and talk to you guys, because we're talking about Sam and Al and Quantum Leap.
I'm so glad that you felt that way, Chris. I don't know, I may have mentioned at some point I'm writing a book at the moment. I don't know if it's not. So I've spent the best part of the last year watching and rewatching and analysing frame by frame the original series. So I am so glad that you managed to get a bit of a, this was nice and relaxing watching the original series.
No, I felt the same way too. It's just you. You're just getting that burnout. That quantum leap burnout, man.
Yeah.
It's a little too much. The thing is, I don't have to analyze it frame by frame like you're doing, Matt. And not, you know what? You're kind of insane. Let me tell you why. Here, let me analyze you here for everybody that's listening. Not only are you doing the second edition of BTMI, Beyond the Mirror Image, an observer's guide to Quantum Leap, coming soon to all supporters everywhere, and I guess eventually for sale generally.
Yes.
After,
That's
the
volume
initial launch
1
stuff.
coming out, and then there's going to be volume
Volume
2.
1 of 3.
Who knows if there'll be more?
Right, so it's the second
there's gonna be
edition,
3.
2 volumes.
3. There's going to be 3.
There's going to be,
right,
there's going to be 3.
because
That's
the volume
news.
2 is just
There's a
season
scoop.
1 of the new series.
Yeah.
Man, you're gonna die before you
got a
finish
plan.
these books.
But not only are you doing that, Matthew, if that wasn't enough, you're also doing your own sort of like super edits of all the episodes, going through, cleaning them up, HDing them. I don't know what you do over there, but that's more frame by frame by frame by frame stuff. You're up to your eyeballs in Quantum Leap all the time.
I need to be able to watch them in perfect quality. But look, I still find it fun watching Quantum Leap. If I didn't find it fun, I wouldn't be able to talk to you guys about it. I still relish that innocence, that naivety that I can hear in your voice of, just sitting back and watching it. I can almost feel it, almost.
Well, you know what? It feels like less pressure watching an episode like this because I've seen the original show so many times, and I'm so familiar with it. I still wrote a lot of notes, but I feel like there's less pressure for me to try and be like, okay, what's the good, what's the bad, how can I make this work, whatever. And there are certainly good, bad, and ugly parts of this episode and a lot of episodes of Quantum Leap. But I just, it feels like going back to basics. And it is kind of going back to basics because we're still in season 1. There's things about it that they would change later. It's kind of interesting looking at it that way. It really reminded me why I love this show. I love Quantum Leap. I love this episode. I just had a lot of fun rewatching this one.
Right. So would you consider those your first impressions? Any other elaboration on that?
I think that's good.
All right. How about you, Matt? First impressions from your jaded worldview, from your jaded pedestal up there in Quantum Leap, academia. What do you deign to say about this episode?
This is a really it really balances the fun stuff with the heavy stuff, which season 1 quite often goes one way or the other, and this nicely has a bit of both. So I think this is one of the stronger ones of the first season, just for that, just for the fact that it really leans into both of them in different ways.
All right. Well, I'm going to do you one better, and maybe it's because I'm on sort of an original series high at the moment, but I think this may be a perfect episode of Quantum Leap. I love this episode, and I hadn't seen it in so long, but it's just so great because, like you were saying, Matt, I think it's equal parts drama, but it's also reveling in the premise here. Like you can tell they're having fun with all of the stuff that the show can do, and they're bringing it to the forefront here with just a lot of memorable, wonderful scenes, and what I think may be one of my favorite moments, if not my favorite moment, in all of Quantum Leap is in this episode.
Ooh.
So,
Whoa.
yeah, I think that this is exactly what Don had in mind when he was creating the show. The fashions, the cars, the music, the nostalgia.
Yes.
Oh, it's heavy on the nostalgia on this one, for sure.
Yeah. Nostalgia overload.
The nostalgia thing, I did some calculations here, because this is the second time we've gone back to the original series since we started watching the new series, right? And the first one was Colour of Truth we did a few weeks back.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And this was 28 years before the episode was aired. That's when this is set. And I've always grown up thinking Kamikaze Kid is a total period piece. It's distant past. I don't even understand how anybody who grew up in that time could still relate to it in 1989. And then I realised that 28 years ago was 1995. And like Quantum Leap now is quite happily jumping to the mid-90s, and I'm watching it thinking, yeah, I could time travel to the mid-90s and totally fit in. It's not that was yesterday. And it really, really changed my view of what 1961 was in 1989. This was not actually that long ago.
Yeah, but you know what? 1989, you were 9 years old?
Yeah, exactly. It's watching it through the eyes of somebody in their early 40s, but also with that element of comparing it to, okay, in my early 40s now, looking back at the mid-90s, it doesn't seem like that long ago. I get that nostalgia when we do the mid-90s episodes with Ben Song. I get that nostalgia, but I also just think it's like going to a foreign country, not like the distant some weird distant place. It's just like going to France. It's just round the corner, the mid-90s. And yeah, Sam didn't go back that far, 1961. Anyway, sorry, I'm not sure where that came from. I'm feeling very old today, basically.
I feel like the amount of nostalgia that the characters are kind of reveling in this episode is kind of a holdover of what Donald Belisario kind of thought the show was going to be before it kind of evolved into what it was. Because there's a lot of like Sam and Al kind of talking about like, the 60s and the 60s, kind of like bringing up like, here's what this was about. You see like when Sam's walking around in Cam's house, he's looking at like all of these little set pieces that they've put a lot of care into to say like, this is something authentically from that time. Look at this little waterfall light thing. And like, look at all, like it just feels like he's like watching Leave It to Beaver when he comes in. They're kind of setting the time. And one of the things that Donald Belisario, when he started this show, he thought that this show was going to appeal to the people that were nostalgic for that time. And what ended up happening was it was appealing to a younger audience because they had this theme. All of the themes that they put through this show were relevant for the modern day. So it wasn't just we're nostalgic about the 50s or the 60s. It was like what has changed and what hasn't changed. And so it's kind of interesting.
I get that. It really wants me to see Ben Song playing with a Tamagotchi and watching the X-Files.
I would love if there was a little more nostalgia or a little more placing it in the time in the new show, to be honest, because all of their 90s episodes have felt like they could take place at any time. But
sorry, I didn't mean to go back to the new series. In terms of the nostalgia element, it gave me a really different perspective this time around.
Yeah.
Can I maybe make an observation in the sense that I think that, Allison, you were saying that maybe it didn't hit the nostalgia chord with the intended audience, but with an audience that was actually a little bit younger, right? And that probably had to do with the themes that the series explored that were very relevant. But at the same time, it's kind of why I asked you, Matt, about the age that you were when you say, Ben, we left back to 1990s, 95 or whatever. You were 9 years old or whatever.
I would have been 15 then. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
But what I'm saying is that you lived through that period. And I don't know that you have any kind of special... you don't idolize it in any way. It just, you lived through it. It was just the world. It was just life. So you don't come at it. Like, I think that anybody watching in 89 who grew up in 1961, 62, that was just the way the world was. So you're not going to look back and have like this view of, aren't those the days? Or
Chris, have you ever talked to an old person who talks about the good old days? Things aren't the way they used to be. People talking about the new show, everything's woke these days. They don't make shows like they used to, like Quantum Leap, ironically, they say.
Yeah.
Like there are some people that kind of have these rose-tinted glasses about what they think the past was.
I understand that. And I feel like it might be an age thing completely, because I think that you might be more prone to do something like that, say, as you're hitting your late 50s into your 60s, as opposed to someone who in 1989 is in their 40s watching a show about when they were in their 20s or something like that.
Yeah.
It's not going to be that big of a leap for them, and they're not going to have sort of that nostalgic worldview about it until maybe they get a little bit older, and then it becomes, it's the greatest generation and this, that, and the other thing. And it was Camelot, and we all lost that's when we lost our innocence as a country, and blah, 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 horseshit. I just think that it wouldn't have been that big of a deal to someone watching in 89 who was, say, a contemporary of, say, Matt or you, Allison, someone that's there, your age, as opposed to someone who, might be a lot older, has lost and is living more in the past and memories instead of dealing with, a current day. And
that's the exact thing.
Yeah, like I think maybe part of it too is that I think it did appeal to people who might be nostalgic for that time, but this show a lot of the time does not present it as the 50s were a great time, the 60s were a great time. They're usually like,
that's true.
They don't have quite those nostalgia glasses about it. There's certain ththings they talk about, like malts and burgers and whatever, they have sort of that. They don't talk about all of the bad things, but they say, like, you know what, this was a repressed time, this was a stupid time, this is when they treated minorities terribly, this is when so there really isn't that the good old days part of it, so maybe that was part of it, but I don't think it didn't appeal to older people either. I think it was just a different audience than Donna Belisario initially thought it was going to be.
Oh, all right. Well, I mean, and they really did, though, lean into the good old days aspect of this one. We did have
Except for Sam.
issues.
He's like, early 60s. Gross.
But I mean, the nostalgia overload, right from the Oh Boy to the downbeat into the Wanderer, was, I thought, like, masterful. And then you get the car hop and the cars and the fashions, and it was just like, wow, look at this. Remember this? Wasn't this great? And then Sam comes and shits all over it with his little soliloquy.
Oh man, that was so funny. He was being a little bitch in this episode. Okay, he comes in, he starts complaining about everything he hates about the early 60s. He's like, it's the tail end of this terrible decade, the 50s. It was stupid. And he's like looking at his reflection. He's like, maybe I'm here to fix this guy's acne. Pizza face. Making fun of this kid. And then he's like, hey, Al, you want this burger? Oh, sorry, forgot you're a hologram. It's like, why are you being such a little bitch here, Sam?
What had Al done to deserve that?
He was being so mean to him.
I know. Al was just happy.
Yeah, Al wasn't even being a jerk at that moment. Sometimes he deserves it, but Al was just, he was just hanging around, enjoying the 60s.
How dare you be happy?
I don't know, maybe he was getting it from Cam. He seems, I don't know. They say in the beginning, I think to explain why he goes to this burger place, like how do you get from point A to point B? It's like, I don't know. I guess I had an urge for like a malt and a burger, seemingly hinting that maybe Cam also had this. I don't know. Maybe Cam is a moody teenager, and then Sam was also a moody teenager.
Why must he be a teenager in love? Surprisingly, they didn't have that one in this episode. I don't think they did anyway.
Yeah, I think this one also.
Oh, they did. They did have teenager in love.
Oh, did they?
Yes.
Yeah.
While they're doing the laughing gas / nitro, whichever one it is.
I thought
another wonderful scene
in the background during, maybe I'm mixing this up with something else. I feel like this was the first time they used "Oh Boy" the song as well. I think that was in the background.
Yeah, that's at Burgerland.
Yeah.
Oh, they were playing "Oh Boy."
Yeah, the one by
No, I thought they were playing "The Wanderer."
They played "The Wanderer" and then they played another song.
And then they go into "Oh Boy."
Oh Boy crops up again in Return of the Evil
Who
Reaper.
did "Oh Boy"? I'm spacing on the artist.
That's Buddy Holly.
Buddy Holly, yes.
Buddy Holly, and the Crickets.
Buddy Holly, who was on the show, as we recall. Yeah, okay.
I just love that I can call that up. I didn't have to look it up. Yeah, that's Buddy Holly and the Crickets. Further cementing the fact that I'm old.
It's kind of funny they have the "Oh Boy" in there before. He's saying "Oh Boy," but I don't think the show had really cemented it as that is like the catchphrase yet. Like it was getting kind of peppered in there.
Well, I had mentioned at the end of the last classic episode we did, or it was at the end of the last book show, we knew we were going to this episode. It was the first "Oh Boy" leap out tease, but it wasn't the first "Oh Boy." He actually says "Oh Boy" in Genesis.
Yes.
Yeah. But this was the first time we had sort of the format that we would get to know as fans that would become the signature of the show, one of the signatures of the show.
Yeah.
Nostalgia overload, sure, but they still had the wherewithal to put an issues plot in the middle of all this stuff. So it was, that's why I say it's sort of like the best of what Quantum Leap could offer, because it gives you, hey, wasn't that neat? But it also gives you, hey, maybe we should think about this, And this one was a spotlight on domestic violence.
Right.
I mean, I don't know about you guys. I love it when wife-beating scumbags get theirs in Quantum Leap. That's why Raped is maybe one of my favorite episodes, when Sam kicks that guy's ass. My favorite part of this episode, next to maybe my most favorite part in Quantum Leap of all time, is when Sam confronts Bob physically on the lawn.
Yes.
And he grabs him by the back of the neck.
Sam
and
is about ready to destroy this guy. I love that the show goes from goofy oh mom, I gotta be a teenager now, to I am gonna kick this guy's ass. Don't you fuck with my sister, okay? It was great. It's a great. It shows Sam's dynamic as a character, right? Because he's kind of a cornball sometimes in season 1, but when it needs to be serious, it's serious. You could tell he's gonna kill that guy. And it was a great scene.
And it just shows you how well, I mean, so early in the series anyway. I know that there are a couple of missteps in this episode, but it shows you how early in the series they started to gel on the formula that would make the show such an enduring success, because you do go from nostalgia to comedy to goofy to wistful to drama and right back, and it's so seamless. It's just these series of scenes that have this cumulative whole of like an entire dynamic experience rather than plot, complication, plot,
yeah,
you know?
It feels rounded, you know, like it feels like it's not just one tone the entire time.
Yeah, and it meanders a little bit, you know. It's just so good. I don't know. Yeah, I don't want to just start beating that drum this whole time. So, I mean, there were some other issues. I mean, one of the things I think that the show nails, aside from, of course, from the domestic violence aspect, was sort of the overbearing masculinity of the period. And we had a lot of casual violence, and you wouldn't really call it violence, but like horsing around with the dad. The running gag in the whole episode, which I thought was kind of dumb, was they keep punching Sam in the arm.
Okay,
and he hates it.
I want to talk about that actually. All right.
Okay, let's talk about that.
It seems weird to have this running gag, like a comic relief gag, that Sam is being punched in the arm and it hurts in an episode about domestic violence.
Right.
Tonally, it seems very strange for them to include that to me.
Yeah.
But the other thing, you know, you talk about overbearing masculinity. I mean, this is a theme that ties in with the fathers in this episode, especially. That ties into the domestic violence because it's a cycle. You see that like Cam and Cheryl's dad hits Sam on the arm, like he's doing this like play fight, but he's being way too rough about it. And to that, when a kid is encountering that all the time, it becomes normal. It's like, this is what dads do. This is what husbands do. That's what Cheryl learns. That's with Bob's dad. He's drinking all the time, and he's they don't show him being physically abusive, but he's certainly emotionally abusive. That's something that he learned from him. It all ties in together.
You can tell Mrs. Bob Sr. is not happy in their relationship. It's not a happy marriage, and there's a lot that's not said specifically or seen specifically, but yeah, like you say, there's a cycle that we can see is happening. And you can see Cheryl becoming Mrs. Bob years down the line.
Yeah.
Yeah, she doesn't even have a first name in this. I think her name is just Mrs. Thompson.
Right, okay. Yeah, I was joking because I couldn't remember. But yes, it is just Mrs. Thompson, isn't it?
Yeah. What I liked is that there were these subtle glances between her and Mrs. Wilson, Janie, that was Cam's mom. And you just see like sort of this, I don't know, I guess it was long suffering, but just like, this is what we have to put up with, and I'm sorry for you and you're sorry for me.
Yeah.
And, you know, I understand, you know?
Well, I think what happened to them is what they were planning to happen to Cheryl, because abuse is often not cartoonish and they're just like obviously evil all the time. You know, there's like insidious things that happen to try and trap them in this situation. You know, what they're doing with Cheryl, they're like, oh, first it's buying a TV. And it's like, well, why would she have this TV if she's planning to go to Tonga? And it's like, oh, well, then we're going to buy her a house. We're going to surprise her with a house. Oh, well, actually, Bob's taken this job, so we can't go because of the job. And then they're planning on knocking her up and like getting her pregnant. It's like, well, we can't go until the baby's born. You know, you stretch the goalposts until it becomes not her life anymore and she can't get out of it.
And let's just pause for a moment on the fact, as you point out, they're planning on knocking her up. Like that's
him and his dad are both planning this.
Oh, it's awful.
It's awful, and it's insidious, and it happens to people. That's how they get trapped in these situations where they feel like they can't leave.
Yeah, and I mean, that guy Bob never intended to join the Peace Corps. He never intended to do any of that. He was just stringing her along. But yeah, it's so odd to me, and that I guess maybe shows you sort of the generational divide. I have a wife who travels. She does relief work, and I can't imagine like telling her, no, you can't do that. You know, like if we could put the resources in place and you can do it, then go ahead, do it. And don't ask me to join you. I'm not going to go to Tonga, but I support you fully in doing, you know, what it is that you want to do. And so it struck me a little bit personally because I live with somebody who has that kind of passion to do that and to help people. And I couldn't imagine thwarting that because then she wouldn't be her. And I'm looking at Bob and saying, why do you want to be with this girl if she is this kind of person? Wouldn't you much rather have? Is it just a trophy to you? Like, what's the dynamic there that's keeping him wanting to keep her against her will, wanting to force her into a life that isn't the life that she wants, and but fooling her into thinking that he's on board with it? I'm sure it happened all the time. For me, I can't fathom why anybody would want to be in a relationship like that, where you're actively lying and trapping somebody. It's despicable and just.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think guys like that sometimes they don't see them as a person. They see them as the idea of what they want them to be. You know, like without making this episode too heavy, I was in an abusive relationship when I was younger. And there were a lot of things where I would set a boundary and then it would be like, yes, but, and then what he wants this to be. And sometimes I think about what it would have been if I'd stayed in that relationship. You know, like I didn't want to have kids, but he's just like, you know, I think kids is something that two people, like, it's the best thing that a relationship that can bring. And if I had stayed with him, he would have made sure that we had kids. And then what do you do then? Like, are you going to leave someone when you have a kid with them? Like, it just feels like it keeps setting like, okay, I respect you, but here's what I want to do, until it becomes what they want you to be. And I, you know, I look back on that and it's like, I don't know what person he saw, because we were like two different people, you know? So I don't know. Some of this was a little bit personal in that, like, it was never like physically abusive, but there were a lot of things I recognized in the patterns there. It's not all at once. It just sort of builds up over time.
Wow. That's a good perspective to bring to it, because it's manipulation. Is what it is. Yeah. It's like, getting upset because they don't read your mind or do what you want them to do, or, you know, it's yucky. Yeah, I used to be that way. If we're gonna share, earlier in my marriage, I used to be that way. I used to get bent out of shape at Laura for not anticipating what I wanted.
No bueno.
So she would do something completely different. She would do something completely different than I anticipated, because, oh, by the way, she's her own person. And I would get bent out of shape. Like, why would you do that? Or why did you do it that way? Meanwhile, I never communicated to her that I anticipate that we're going to do it this way. I just expected her to know what was going on in my head. And I had to teach myself to not do that. So it is insidious, and I can be guilty of it as much as anybody. I'm just glad that I was able to recognize it, because I think of like who I could have been and who I could have become. And then where would we be, you know? So yeah. Wow. We got a little heavy. Huh?
A little bit heavy, but this episode, I mean, while we're still on this topic, I do want to talk a little bit about Sam's personal connection to this, because he cares about people in general, but this one is very personal to him because his sister was in an abusive marriage. So he mentions Katie. He doesn't say her name, but we know she's Katie because of the pilot. He mentions her name, I believe.
Right. And
he says that she got married the first time when she was 17 to an abusive drunk, and he felt guilty because he should have known. He should have helped her. You know, you always think like, oh, you're going to see the signs, but you don't always see the signs. And it seems like this is something he never told Al either. Like, Al seems to react as if this is new information to him.
I mean, and the other thing is like, so I'm just trying to also, in retrospect, he can beat himself up over it. But I'm trying to think, what is the age difference between Sam and Katie? Matt, do you have an idea?
Yeah, what was the difference again?
Give me a second.
I mean, he was 16 in the leap back. She looked like she was about maybe 12.
Well, if she was 17, he would have been off to college at that point. He left at 16, so he would have been gone.
So he would have been away anyway. So, I mean, he wasn't even in a position really to be present enough, in my opinion, just in like the chronology of the show and the chronology of Sam Beckett, to really beat himself up over it. And I can understand why he would. And even if he doesn't see her that much, he should be able to, pick up on what's going on and help her. And how, especially in hindsight, how didn't I see this? How didn't I notice this? Why didn't I do anything about it? She
was born in 57.
So she was,
and he was
13
so she's like
when he
6
was
years
16.
younger than him. Yeah.
No, 3 years younger. No, wait. 57 versus 53. That's 4. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
4
Sorry.
years.
Yeah.
We know,
but
math.
at that age, yeah. But her leaving at 17, yeah, like you said, he would have been 21 at that point. 22. He probably was away at school. He was probably doing his own thing. Just from personal experience, I have a younger sister that's 6 years younger than me. When she was 17 years old, I never saw her. I was away at school. I was a young man, like doing my own thing in the world. So yeah, would I feel guilty if something like that had happened to her? I'm sure I would. Putting myself in Sam's place, of course, being a big brother and not seeing the signs and not helping someone you love dearly. But at the same time, were you really in a position to help her? I think that was more of a dramatic beat than sort of a realistic beat for if you're going to go by the where the characters would have been at that times in their lives.
Yeah.
At that time in their lives.
In fact, if I could also add, 1974, that's when Katie married Chuck. 1974 is also when their dad passed away.
Yeah.
And in the draft script, we established that Sam didn't attend the last Thanksgiving before that. So, yeah, Sam's obviously not really around that much when his dad dies, and therefore when Katie marries Chuck.
Yeah, I think it was a weird time for Sam. Yeah. I think he felt like he had let his family down in a lot of ways. Maybe he was out figuring himself out. He was getting all of his degrees and he was pursuing his dreams, but with that comes the price of leaving the small town, this distance between your family. You can't always visit them whenever you want to, and you feel like you miss a lot of things. And is it canon that he missed his father's funeral? I feel like that was.
Oh, the funeral? Possibly.
I feel like I got that from somewhere, that he wasn't at his dad's funeral, and I don't think they ever explain why. But that seems like such a tough thing to miss, that you didn't come to that. So I feel like that's my headcanon about why Sam hates the 70s so much. Like, he says a few times that he just hates the 70s. And I think it's because a lot of bad things just happened in the 70s for him personally. So got those memories.
It's completely opposite of Al. We'll learn this later on, but he says the 70s was his favorite time because Vietnam was behind him. He had the space program ahead of him. And, he could just get laid and dance and probably do a lot of drugs and just finally... But he was probably hiding his devastation of losing Beth.
Yeah,
so,
I think like the worst and the best times for Al happened in the 70s because he was still in Vietnam through, depending on which lore you go with, which timeline you go with, half of the 70s. 75 is when they say in the leap back that he got repatriated. So half of it, he is a POW, and then he finds out that he lost his wife, he was declared dead, all these terrible things happened to him. And I think because of that, he's like, I'm not going to live my life miserable. And he goes out and just has the best time, or maybe spirals out. Who knows? He was probably doing a lot of drugs, a lot of drinking. And he was just partying it up through half of the 70s. So it's an interesting dichotomy that it was kind of like it was both of those things to him.
Yeah. Now, we also saw, speaking of drinking, we saw that Bob was pretty much a chronic drinker in this. Again, same thing with the dad. And I'm wondering, was it because he was a mean drunk? Like, are they trying to give Bob a pass because he's got his own demons? Anyway, I didn't look at it that way, but I guess they're just trying to show you how the cycle of violence gets perpetuated.
Yeah, I think that was it.
The things that can contribute to it.
I don't think they didn't need to bring alcohol into it, but I guess it's just trying to round out the character a bit and give him additional elements.
Yeah, I think it's all just part of the cycle about learning these things from your parents and continuing them forward.
Yes.
Yeah, and at the same time, I know we talk about sort of the casual masculinity and sort of the play fighting. I didn't see Mr. Wilson as like a bad dad or a bad guy or any he wasn't particularly abusive to me. He just seemed like a normal dad.
He was getting too rough. I don't think he was meant to be like completely monstrous, but I think that was just something that was learned.
Okay. That's a fair assessment. Like, to me, it just seemed normal. And maybe that says something as well. You know?
The fact like
my dad, by the way, my dad wasn't like that. My dad wasn't like a handsy guy, and there was no horseplay, you know?
Yeah.
I was also a giant crybaby, so you looked at me wrong, and I would run away crying.
Yeah, I guess there's I was a big crybaby too. I still am. But, you know, like, I guess there's something to be said about generational things, what was considered acceptable or not. But I'll tell you what, like, people, and I've met people like this, and I've known people like this, if they get physical, even jokingly, and you tell them to stop and they keep doing it and they're hurting you, that is not someone that you want to be around.
Yes.
Like, that just makes me deeply uncomfortable, and there's usually some other underlying thing going on there as to why they're doing that, because that's not acceptable.
Yeah. Well,
but I don't know. There wasn't a lot with the dad, to be honest. Just that I think that was just another layer to it.
Yeah, I think it was just to show you that this has different permutations.
Yeah,
but maybe that it's part of the culture,
right?
And it was just a nice another subtle way to spotlight that. So, which is good, because Quantum Leap, we know, can be very spoon-feedy, and hats off to Paul Brown, who wrote this episode.
Yeah.
A lot of subtext here, a lot of really compelling subtext here, on top of the nostalgia, on top of the comedy, on top of everything. Just a masterful piece of writing, in my opinion. By the way, that wasn't a water lamp, Allison. Those were oil, those lamps.
That seems like a fire hazard.
My aunt had the exact same one in her living room, and it would be beads of oil going down these wires. And I don't know why you would hang that like over a white couch and a white rug.
Oh, no!
In like the fanciest room in the house. But anyway, yeah.
There was a lot of really ugly browns and yellows and shit. It was like, oh man, that's definitely that time. Yeah, ugly.
Even the gangs were quaint back then. The Impalas. I mean, this has a lot of DNA shared with Grease, I think. Like, they're showing you that,
well, for sure,
that idealized 60s, you know.
They're racing for pinks and all that.
They're racing. Yes. And did anybody ever walk around with, you know, T-birds on the back of their jacket, or is that just a Broadway thing?
I don't know. So. They didn't burst into song, though, so that was unfortunate. I'd have liked to have seen Jason Priestley leading a number.
Yeah, this was Jason Priestley before 90210, before he hit it big as a Pencil. Yeah. What's this character's name? Pencil.
Yes, Pencil.
Pencil.
And at one point, he's like, I didn't think you had the ganachos to show. He's having a lot of fun doing this like little character bit here. Yeah, I enjoyed the guest stars on this one. A lot of recognizable faces. Yeah. Romy Windsor played Cheryl. I've seen her in a ton of things. She was in Howling 4.
Oh, well, there you go. And Chuck Thompson was Robert Costanzo. Now, Robert Costanzo is a character actor that was in everything in the 80s, in my memory.
That was
and
Bob's
he even
dad?
came back in the 90s. Yeah, that was Bob's dad.
He's Joey's dad as well, isn't he?
To play Joey's dad.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He was, there's been so many things I've seen him in. He's just the dad, right?
Every Italian dad.
Every Italian dad.
But he's always, you know, he always kind of plays like a
sleazeball.
Yeah,
he's
kind of
very
sleazy.
good at it.
Yeah, he's really good at it. Like, he can do it. Kind of the lovable sleazeball, you know? It's like, you're sleazy, but you're so charming.
Yeah, he's good at it. If you want that kind of character, he's the one to go to.
And how about the casual scene? This is where I found it a little weird, kind of fun, where the mom confronts Sam about the Playboy. Like,
what is this, mister? Cam!
It's like we found it, you know, wedged between your mattress and the wall, and just like, you're just gonna bring it up in the middle of a kitchen in the house.
That seemed like the implications here. Thing to do. But the thing is,
my mum was so much kinder than that.
Yeah, I just don't get why the backstory of the housekeeper was so like scandalized by finding this issue of Playboy that she quit. And then she's like, if another one quits, then that's curtains for you, or whatever she said to him. You know, it's like, what? Well, but I mean, like, how many Is this enough to make a housekeeper quit? They found a Playboy magazine?
I don't know. Maybe the housekeeper was some kind of fundamentalist Christian. I don't know. But Cam is kind of a weirdo. I mean, he's just keeping Playboys around his bedroom. He doesn't wear underwear, apparently. I mean, when they pan Sam.
He's always joyriding and stuff. Maybe he's a little bit of a nerdy bad boy. It seems like a contradiction there, but they do seem to, say that he's into junk food and joyriding, and he certainly gave Cheryl a hard time, but that's sort of what brothers and sisters do, I think.
That's true.
Yeah, it's four housekeepers or 4 cleaning ladies over the last year.
Yeah, what?
4. Where are they finding them?
He's got a smut empire, is what he's got.
Okay, so I didn't find that scene with the mom that random or anything. I thought it was kind of like establishing, especially because this was the first time Sam had leaped into anyone that young. So it's like, well, now all of a sudden he's a kid. He's got to be treated like a kid by these parents. I think the most random scene in this episode, you know where I'm going, is in the bathroom.
Tweedledee-leet. Tweedledee-leet.
With a Michael Jackson scene. Hello.
Why?
I have one word next to that. Flop. I mean, this was such a random. And now I know that I think I had asked you guys this before, and I just always assumed that the abrupt nature of the introduction of the song was because they had to cut some kind of introductory scene for syndication.
No.
But no, they just go right into like the middle of Rockin' Robin and them doing moves for like... What?
It's such a non sequitur. This is definitely like a leftover of it was a requirement for a bit for them to put these kisses with history in there. Yeah. So they're like, how do we do this? I don't know. I guess he's in a bathroom and Michael Jackson shows up and then they start showing him the moves. And then he leaves.
You teach Michael Jackson how to moonwalk.
And then he teaches him how to moonwalk, and then an adult close up of adult feet starts doing the moonwalk. Yes. I love when the kid
that could do it.
Man, when the kid comes in, there's clearly an adult woman dubbing him over, going like, "Mister, who you talking to?" I couldn't. Well, it might not have even been an adult woman. Was that Holly Fields again? It sounded like her to me.
Oh, I hope so.
You know what? She made a whole career out of doing voice acting and like voice replacement for Cameron Diaz and Drew Barrymore.
Yeah, that's what she does now.
She was in like a million productions of Shrek as the princess.
Yeah.
So she talks about this in the interview with Albie. So that's how I know it. So it's entirely possible that they got her to do it because she has that kind of voice, that malleable kind of voice.
Well, I don't know how much voice acting she'd done at that point because it was still pretty early in her career, but it's possible they had her there and they're like, well, we have a young woman that could feasibly sound like a little boy. Can you record this ADR real quick while you're recording your other lines?
Maybe.
Because it didn't sound like Deborah Pratt, and I feel like Deborah Pratt is the other one that kind of gets dubbed in when they need a young girl, or a young kid, I should say. Yeah,
I hadn't even noticed it. I thought it was just the kid talking to him.
Oh, it was definitely not the kid. It was an adult woman going, "Mister, who you talking to?"
It was the same actress that played Tina in The Leap Back.
Oh yeah, Gigi Rice. They brought her in there.
Yeah, it was Gigi. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how she got the role as Tina later on.
Yeah.
Can we get back to Sam and Al in this, and especially Al?
There is so much good stuff in this episode.
Seedy season 1 Al is back in all of his glory, all of his charming glory.
He has one scene where he has showed up in the past to watch Cheryl try on lingerie and then leaves. How old is Cheryl supposed to be? It's not acceptable in any way, but how old is she supposed to be?
I don't know. I guess we're going to say 17.
You dirty old man. She's a teenager.
18. She's 18.
She's at least 18 because Cam is 17 and he's the younger brother.
Right, yeah. So, and if she's going to go in the Peace Corps, she's got to be at least 18. You got to be an adult.
Poor Cheryl's got enough going on without also that.
Yeah, like that. I feel like that was unnecessary, that scene.
According to the draft script, that she's 22. Never stated on screen, but she's 22.
Okay,
but
that makes it less creepy, but not creepy.
Right, not creepy, but just the fact that Al is there for no reason. Sam even says, "Why are you here?" No reason.
Just spying on girls.
I'm just hanging out, watching girls in their underwear, and I think he's probably reminiscing too. I mean, maybe he's the proxy for the audience.
Them try on underwear.
Yeah, and then he doesn't. When that's over, he doesn't go back into the imaging chamber. He just walks through the wall of the house.
What are you doing, Al? What are you doing?
He's just walking around, reliving the '60s. That's what he's doing. You know, that's the way I looked at it.
In the '60s, he used to spy on women. That's
you know.
Okay, so in that scene, he's wearing probably the ugliest outfit he's ever worn. Just this big gray outfit. No, thank you. But earlier in this episode. Well, I thought it was boring, but earlier in this episode, he was wearing the definitive Al outfit. This is the outfit everyone remembers Al wearing.
Yeah.
When they're at the burger place, Al is wearing a silver jacket, tan dress pants, monochrome red shirt with matching sunglasses, and newspaper print suspenders. This is a look.
This is the quintessential, yeah.
He never wore those sunglasses again. Like, the entire sunglasses are red.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like this, is sort of like the epitome of the mandate that Belisario set forward, especially for the Al character. Make him as jarring and as anachronistic as you possibly can. Okay, well, then we'll dress him like a baked potato then. And
he never looked more futuristic than he did there. No, you never mistake him for someone in the 60s.
But did you guys notice that once Sam is stripped, he's not just pantsed, he's stripped and tossed into a dumpster.
Yeah, because he's not wearing any underwear.
He's not wearing any drawers, right? Do you see when he's getting dressed in the dumpster, they just linger on Al's face watching Sam in a dumpster he doesn't turn away, he doesn't talk, he just stares. Now that's creepy.
Al's not fussy. Any nakedness.
Here's the thing about this episode. Sam and Al were in love. They were absolutely in love in this episode, okay?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Sam straight up says, Al, I love you in this episode. And then they end it with them singing a romantic duet to each other.
Can I tell you? Now, I had mentioned it at the top of the show. That is maybe my favorite scene in all of Quantum Leap.
I love that scene.
When the Everly brothers come in.
I love it.
And they're just singing to each other, and then they laugh, and hey, Allie boy, how you doing, Sam? That is quintessential. That is the epitome of those characters. And from that scene, a million /fics were born. I love that scene so much.
It's because they play off of each other so well. It's played so sincere that they just decide to sing this duet together. But even like before, when Al shows up and Sam sees him, he is so happy to see him. He's just like, Al, and then like Al calls him Sammy boy, and he's like, Allie boy. Yeah. You know, like it's just, it's great.
And the chemistry, the chemistry that those two share is undeniable. And I feel like, you know, we got to see a bit of it in the Ms. Melanie episode, but here they genuinely seem like lifelong pals. Yeah. Like there's no one they would rather hang with than each other, you know? And it's such a great scene. I love that scene so much. And especially I love that song too, the Let It Be Me.
Yeah.
So Everly Brothers, you can't go wrong with that. And I've mentioned this in earlier shows as part of a segment that I used to do called Quantum Leap Radio Settings.
There's a radio.
This was the episode. Yeah, there's a Philco on the shoeshine stand that they have a close-up in when they play that Everly Brothers song. It's supposedly coming out of that radio. And then they dolly back, and then Sam and Al start singing. But I saw that, and I was like, oh my God, I wonder if that's, what kind of radio is that? Oh, is that the right year? Was that made in 61? And this is the episode that started it all. I saw that Philco. And then I just started looking for radios in the show altogether and doing my radio sightings. So that's another reason I love this episode.
An origin story. I love it.
Yes. But yeah, I mean, if you don't like that scene between Sam and Al, then there is no liking Quantum Leap for you at all. Because, and that's why I say like it's sort of a perfect episode in so many ways. But we do have a very problematic part of the episode.
Oh,
yeah, slightly.
That kiss.
Okay, so refresh me. It's been a while since I listened to the Holly Fields interview. People listening to this will be hearing it shortly. Did she say she had fibbed about her age a little bit, or am I making this up?
In the interview, she says that she was 13 and that Scott was 35.
Right.
And she said it was her first kiss. And she goes on at length about it. One thing I want to commend Albie for is he just took it head on. And that's like the first thing they talk about. And 10 years later, the scene is more problematic than it ever was. But the way she describes it was nothing but a positive experience for her.
Yeah,
sure.
So
I don't think anyone was thinking of it as being something creepy. I think it's just something you think about later, and it's like, I don't think it's acceptable to have a 35-year-old actor having a romantic kiss with a 13-year-old.
No.
But I don't think anyone was thinking about it back then, about what that was. And her character was supposed to be older, too, so I don't know. I mean, did they know she was 13?
They must have done. Her mum was there, and...
Yeah, she said her mom was behind a tree taking pictures.
Oh, okay.
Her mom was on set.
Okay.
Her mom was on set. So, yeah, you'll hear about that in the interview. I don't want to spoil the interview too much, but it seemed like everybody was cognizant of everything that was going on at all times. And she had nothing but like great things to say.
Yeah, and I don't think like anything, untoward was going on. I think they were all being very respectful. It's just something you look back on. It's like, I don't think they would ever do that today.
Yeah, and I'm trying to rack my brains, trying to figure out why they needed to do it. Because Cheryl's leap was done. Like, the mission was accomplished. Cheryl was out of the abusive relationship. She was heading off to Tonga or wherever, and, her life was ahead of her. Her career was ahead of her. Her new husband was ahead of her. Why haven't I leaped? Oh, you have to go kiss that girl. Why? Cam can go kiss that girl. Why does Scott have to do it? Why does Sam have to do it? And it struck me that because... the nostalgia in this episode, I feel like the thrust of this episode was written to tap specifically into a mid to late 20th century white male nostalgia. And I mean, the 60s being, quote, that time of innocence. Every song was about being a teenager in love. She was only 16.
Yeah.
So of course they're going to have to do to make the trifecta. We had the cars, we had the clothes, we had the music. Now let's do the first kiss.
Yeah.
And it is undoubtedly seen as sort of an innocent throwback to a more innocent time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm watching a 35-year-old man kiss a 13-year-old girl.
Yeah, they're trying to, be like, well, in order to leap, he's got to give this young girl her first kiss, like a very innocent kind of thing. But you don't, obviously to her, she's kissing a teenager, but we know that Sam as a character he's older than 35, actually. Like Sam, if you go with the timeline, but it's just something that's not that innocent.
Yeah.
But I guess that goes into a lot of things in Quantum Leap, where it's like, if you go with the context in the show about who Sam really is versus who the people he's kissing or being intimate with think that they're being intimate with, there are some problems. And I think there were, especially in the early seasons, a lot of this kind of stuff where they were like, I don't know, let's kind of end it on something kind of cutesy or something like that. Like, let's have him, fix it, or have him pull something in a bingo game and then say the winning number on there. Or, I think there was a script for a season 2 episode, Animal Frat, where it originally ended with he had to get that guy laid, like one of the guys have him get laid and lose his virginity in order to leap, and it's like, why would you think that's acceptable? I don't know, because they thought it was funny, I guess.
Yeah, it was a different time.
Yeah,
I mean, I suppose it's you know what? In the context of the episode, it still works. I might get some hate mail for that. And I think that if they're going to do it, I think Scott played it perfectly because he was so hesitant and he was just trying to be as innocent as possible.
Yeah.
And then as he leaps, she becomes more of the aggressor. Thank God he got out at that point,
Yes.
Because she starts to get real into it. But,
didn't Paul Brown, he also wrote Runaway, and they had kind of similar themes with this like young girl hitting on Sam constantly.
I'm trying to remember Runaway.
I believe we talked about it in
yes,
there.
that was our first. Yeah. That was our first episode.
Yeah,
together, right.
Because in the script, she was described as this like Lolita type character. So this was apparently a running thing that Paul Brown wanted to put in there. But again, I don't think he was thinking of it as anything bad. I think he was just like, this is funny to have Sam in this situation.
All right, yeah, and I think they played a lot of that for gags. I mean, there was a lot of sexist gag humor. If it wasn't, I guess, Paul, then Tommy was writing, like prostitutes and weird sex jokes. So it was a go-to for the series. Let's put it that way. So this is not anything. Does this establish that dynamic for the show? I guess maybe this is the first time we've seen.
Well, I mean, they had lots of sex jokes. It's just the dynamic between Sam and a much younger character, I guess. But it was just a couple times. It's not like a huge running thing.
All right. Well, we did get some history on Al here. He's got Russian blood on his mother's side.
Yeah.
And, just thinking Uncle Steve.
Yeah.
Who would later become very, very important to the series.
Right. They don't talk about Al's Russian side very much. Maybe it was a side he just wasn't that connected with because he didn't know his mom that long.
Yeah. Or maybe, his dad, maybe, or they hung up. Well, I just, personal experience, I'm only half Italian, but I identify mainly as Italian, even though I have tons of Irish and, German cousins. But I feel like I'm Italian because I grew up mainly around my dad's family. Mm-hmm. So it could be just something as simple as that.
Yeah.
But I do like the fact that they kept the continuity with this in the sense that they bring it up here in like episode 8. And then it comes so heavily into play in the series finale. Was that a happy accident? Do you think that they, at that point, they said, oh, well, we can play on this part of Al's heritage, or was it just something that happened to align? Because I know they weren't crazy about keeping the continuity with the show. And I know that sometimes, called Trudy Loretta in some scenes, and they had to dub over it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, maybe someone just remembered that. I'm kind of curious how Al knew about that uncle. Like, maybe he met him before his mom left? I don't know.
But he died in 33.
33.
Right? So how old
he
would Al been in 33?
Before Al was even born. But, I mean, we don't know if that's really his uncle, though, because that's just a weird... Mirror image is just a weird thing.
Yeah. I never assumed that Uncle Stopper died in 33.
Okay, so you think it's just a coincidence?
Yeah.
That the name. Yeah. So it's like Ziggy and Gushy and...
Well, everyone in that episode was not really the people they seemed to be. So.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. All right.
I'll buy that. Just the same as Tonchi and Pete looking like the LaMottes. It doesn't mean anything beyond whatever it means.
Here's the thing about Al that they did seem to drop. It seemed like a thing earlier in the show, and then it didn't come up so much later, but Al seems to be a car guy.
Yeah, and Sam certainly knows his way around an engine, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of like, at first I was like, I don't know, like Sam also knows cars, but it's like, I guess like he just seems to kind of learn and know everything. So maybe he's just like, as a thing that's, how do you put this together and take it apart? Maybe he learned a little bit about cars. And
only to a point, because like during the Nitro scene where he says to Jill, like, oh yeah, I don't remember how to, you remember how to do that? Just testing you, sort of thing, yeah.
Yeah.
I took that as him being Swiss cheese, though. I think that if he had been himself, he would have been able to do it.
Yeah, he remembered more about cars than I know with a non-Swiss cheese brain.
True.
So I think he probably learned the functionality of cars, how to fix them and whatever he needed to do, because he's very good at learning how things work. But he's not really like a car guy in that, like, he says to Al, like, oh, you let a car like that rule your life. Like, he's not really into, like, cars in the way that Al's into cars.
No, but I mean, knowing how an engine works is different than being into cars. And my headcanon here is he grew up on a working farm. I'm sure the tractor broke down every once in a while, and they had to fix it. So he probably had to learn how to fix the tractor or fix whatever machinery was around the farm occasionally.
Yeah.
So it would just naturally translate into, that's why he could diagnose it just by hearing it. Like, I knew the camshaft was off. I just didn't know what the camshaft was or how to fix it.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that. That all connects together.
Well, there we go.
But it did seem like, maybe I'm just thinking of the scene in Right Hand of God when Al is talking about the neighbor with the car, but I swear there were other things where Al mentions a car. But maybe it's just this episode. I don't know. Maybe he's just a car guy for this episode.
Well, but then we have, getting back to the revival series, season 6.
Mm-hmm.
When we first see Beth, she's working on Al's car in the driveway.
Yes. Yeah, I was thinking about that. Yeah.
So Al obviously did have some kind of affinity for cars in universe, so that's canon now.
Yeah, I mean, in the pilot we saw he had that sweet car. You know, he seems to. Was it a Ferrari or something? It's some fancy pants car. Yeah,
I feel like it was didn't he say it was an experimental model or something like that?
Yeah,
right.
It's some sort of Ferrari Starbright project fusion Knight Rider. He's driving around Kit. Yeah. But yeah, Car Guy Al didn't get mentioned that much, but was kind of prominent through this episode.
Yeah, and I think it all fits in with sort of the nostalgia around, girls and cars and racing and all of that. So, I mean, muscle cars are, still loom large as part of masculine culture. So it fits right in with some of the overall themes of the episode. I think in a good way, in an interesting way. I'm sorry, we don't get to see it a lot, but I'm glad that they were able to carry that part of his personality over into the new series, give them some more connective tissue in retrospect. I had not remembered any of this stuff until we watched this episode, but it makes that scene with Beth a little bit more poignant for me now when she's talking to Magic and working on the car.
Yeah, well, also the fact that when we first met Beth, her car was broken down and she couldn't fix it. And Al apparently taught her how to fix a car because she was fixing it up. So kind of nice.
Oh, it all ties together so nicely.
All right, enough about this car crap. What's the lawyer joke? All I get was the punchline. Who knows the lawyer joke? I don't know it. Can someone tell me what the setup is?
I don't know. I'll say it, but we may want to remove it. I don't know. And to be fair, I only found out because I had to Google it because I had to know. There's several variations of it, but it all involves a sweet young innocent girl asking a doctor, "Can you get pregnant from having anal sex?"
Oh, and that's it.
That's it.
How does the lawyer punchline come in?
Well, because lawyers are terrible people. And they get born from
right.
What? But that's
women
not
being
anything.
Impregnated up the butt.
Are they trying to say like lawyers are anal? Is that maybe the tie-in there?
No,
I don't think
they're saying lawyers are shitty.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so
that's
they're
not
shitty
really
people.
much of a joke. I'd be reacting like the moms in that scene. Like,
I'm reacting like the moms now. But just think about so we have subtext about nudie magazines, no underwear, masturbation, anal sex.
Yeah.
This is a filthy freaking episode of Quantum Leap. Potential slash fiction, underage kissing. Holy crap.
Yeah. This episode goes everywhere.
And yet, there's still a scene where Al calls the dad a dirty crumb. Like, the language. That dirty crumb.
Ooh, I'm scandalized.
Okay, more car stuff. I did like Sam and Jill talking about blowing up while they're high on nitrous oxide.
That was a wonderful scene. Just the laughter. It just seems so genuine.
Yeah.
And it's another reason why I love this episode, because it's not afraid to sort of linger and meander and just have like these wonderful like human moments, which is something that we are still sorely lacking from the Revival series. That's why I felt like so pumped to be seeing this type of Quantum Leap again. Scenes like that scene with Jill, that scene with Al just being there for no freaking reason, just wandering around, you don't get that anymore.
I mean, I feel like by giving us these scenes that I guess aren't functionally part of the plot, just like, they're little bits of character. You have like little moments with them. Yeah. You care more about what's going to happen to them because you've had this time with them. Like they have the scene where Sam is talking to Cheryl while she's like painting her nails, talking about just little brother and sister moments. And this leads into stuff where he's asking about Bob and trying to say, like, hey, maybe he's not really the right guy for you. But you get to know who Cheryl is. You get to know who Cam is. You get to know like their dynamic there. And you feel all the more bad for her that she's in this terrible situation. And it helps you understand a little bit more how she reacts, why she wouldn't believe him, why she wants to defend Bob, why she wants to make this work.
The thing is you're getting, like you said, the character, and it makes them more rounded and believable. And I feel like that's a style of writing that has been lost. we always go back to Star Trek on the show, but and that you can blame it on time, you can blame it on whatever you want. Oh, it's shorter. They had 47 minutes, we have 43 minutes. I mean, you can still work character beats into overall plot stuff. I was watching an episode of DS9, and it was just Kira and Odo talking in Odo's quarters. And I guess he had just become, a changeling again. And they were just talking about, are you going to sleep in a bed anymore? Are you going to be in your bucket? And it was just pure character work for the sake of building their relationship and just having more interesting, stuff for the viewers to chew on. Then I think of like Discovery, where it's just like hysterics all the time and plot and pacing, and that's all you get. And it's just like, there's no reason why you can't do wonderful character stuff like you see in this episode in a current TV environment. It's almost like they forgot how to do it. It's like they were trained completely differently on what makes writing, what makes a TV episode.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, episodes, like, stories are more than the plot. They're more than like, how do we get from point A to point B? Like, you got to care about the people in there. And I do feel like a lot of these scenes, a lot of these moments that we liked in this episode, they did still function in a way to move the plot forward. It wasn't like they just stopped in the middle of the episode to tell you what this is all about. At no point did they say, what's going on with these dads is because it's the cycle of abuse and because of this. They don't tell you that. You're just informed of it because you're watching it and you're like, I see what they're doing here. When you have like Sam talking to Cheryl, part of that, he's thinking about Katie. He's thinking about his own relationship, but they're not just stopping to say that. Like, it's part of it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, that's true. It always comes down to show, don't tell.
Yeah.
So you're seeing it instead of being told it, and I feel like that's been lost because they just feel like they have to spoon feed plot at every turn. And, Quantum Leap, the classic series does become a little bit more like that as time goes on. Trust me, because having edited together the mashups of the later episodes is much easier because you do always have a certain point in the show where there's an exposition dump and then a certain complication that leads into an act break.
Absolutely.
It's very difficult to do that with these early episodes because they are not structured like that at all. And you sort of have to fish for, okay, what's important to the plot and how do I get across the thrust of this episode? It's much harder to figure out what to leave out and how to incorporate what you need to incorporate without going overboard. And but that's actually a very good thing because it's just so organic. Everything that you see is just so organic.
Yeah, I was just thinking while I was watching this actually about how they handled this episode versus how they handle in the new show the observer and leaper dynamics. So when Al shows up, he tells him about what's going on with Cheryl, and they kind of have an idea what the mission's going to be. But they spend a lot of this episode like either just being in the environment or trying to figure out how to navigate to whatever they need to stop. It's a lot of what they're doing in the new series is an event. Like he has to stop an event. So he's very much like, I need to stop this one particular thing and not like, okay, well, how do we get Cheryl out of this particular situation? There's no one moment to stop it. It's just like, well, how do we direct her in a different path in life? Mm-hmm. And they have the scene with the nitrous oxide where Al is instructing Sam how to use it in the car. So you have like Al using his expertise to tell Sam how to do something he may not know how to do exactly. But a lot of what they do in the new show is very hand-holdy. Every scene, Addison's got to be like, Ben, do this, Ben, do that, Ben, do this. And it's just, it feels very instructional. I would like it maybe to feel more organic and less like functional, like how do we get from this point to the next point, but how do we live in this moment and then try to solve whatever problem is put forth.
Yeah. And I wish that we could get more stuff like you have with Sam, his voiceover about the camshaft, right? That gives us a little bit more about Sam. We'd never get anything like that from Ben. Ben is always, reacting or lacking a reaction to everything that's going on around him. But I still feel like we barely know him as a character, except for maybe the backstory with his mom. And the couple of things that they said about how he's the glue that holds that project together. His strength is bringing people together. I think that they gave us a little bit of that in the Paging Doctor song, and maybe they're headed more in that direction. But man, they would do well to just look at some of this early stuff from season 1 of the classic series. And this is how you build character. And this is how you get to know somebody. And it was just errant at the time, but just, again, since we have the entire series to look at, you just see how comprehensive it feels at the end of the day. Like, we know so much about Sam in such a little time, as opposed to what we know about Ben in the same amount of episodes. So. Yeah.
Okay, I want to go over the last bits of what I have in my notes. I did want to say I loved Sam's slide over the hood of the car before he decks Bob in the face.
Yeah.
They put that in the intro. They're like, that's awesome.
That's an opening theme moment.
Very right Starsky and Hutch. Right?
We're like, we love all the character moments and the themes and all that. And but what about when Sam slid over a hood and decked that guy in the face? Oh, hell yeah.
And don't they do like 3 jump cuts for that? Like, he slides and then he punches and then he's standing over him, like in the intro. I feel like they linger
maybe
on
the
that.
Intro is when he's ducking the car hitting the pillar. There's like a stunt guy jumping out of the way really quick. That might be.
No, that was Scott. That was all Scott.
No, okay. There's the dodging of the car hitting the wall, which I think is a stunt, is Diamond Farnsworth.
Yeah, that's
and then
Farnsworth,
there's the diving over the hood, which is definitely Scott Bakula. I think that's what they used in the intro, is the hood dive.
Yeah, they did.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
I think they used both, to be honest.
They used both, yeah.
Oh, they used both. Yeah. Well, there you go.
Yeah, Matt has meticulously rebuilt all of these. So, Matt, you tell us exactly what scenes they use and which one is in the intro that's not in the actual episode, because I know there's got to be one of them. Right? Sometimes they use alternate takes.
They do, but not for that. No, I'm sure those are both.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, you're right. There's plenty of times when that happens, but no, those are directly from Kamikaze Kid.
Yeah, and that goes back to, it's sort of the culmination of that plot thread where Sam confronts him physically and grabs him by the back of the neck, and he's just finishing the job there, and there's just such a yes, it's a fist pump moment.
The scene at the rehearsal dinner, we learn that Al likes food fights, which is just delightful. And then we see Sam.
Of course he does.
He loves food fights. He's just like, food fights. Oh, I love this. Oh, well, not all the time, I guess. Sam's mad at him. And Sam's sitting at the children's table. Hilarious. Michael Belisario is also there. One of his handful of appearances. This is his first appearance.
Yes. There you go. And announcing the screen debut of Michael Belisario. Everybody.
As little boy. That was pretty good. That rehearsal, the building they use for the rehearsal dinner is pretty recognizable too. I remember it from Miss Deep South because there's these distinctive horses on the wall, like chariots and horses. Yeah. There must have been other episodes they used him in. Do you remember, Matt?
I just know those two, but yeah, like you say, once you've seen it, you can't unsee it.
Yeah, it's pretty distinctive.
All right.
Yeah, that's all my notes.
And good notes they were, Allison. Thank you for bringing up that scene of him sliding over the hood, and especially the laughing gas scene. That was one of my favorite scenes, when they're just laughing in the back of the car together. Another genuine character beat that I adored. Let's get some final thoughts. Allison Pregler, final thoughts about Kamikaze Kid.
For an issues episode, it really doesn't feel that heavy. This is a fun episode. Like, I think there's a lot of great moments in it that just bring a smile to my face. And I was really glad to rewatch it.
How about you, Matt?
Yeah, couldn't put it better myself. If anything, talking to you guys about it, and especially Chris, hearing your love for it has raised my appreciation of it. I might actually watch it properly for fun sometime soon.
I mean, I hope you would. But I'm going to reiterate everything that I said up at the top. I think this may be a near perfect episode of Quantum Leap. I think it was the epitome of everything Don Belisario wanted the show to be. And I just genuinely enjoyed it from start to finish. I'm so glad that we're doing this season 1 rewatch and that I'm finding so much to love instead of so much to be cringy about, because that's often what happens in a season 1. But no, it was right there at the beginning of the show, and the chemistry between Sam and Al and Scott and Dean in this episode is just, it's bar none. It's unparalleled. So wonderful, wonderful episode of Quantum Leap. And with that being said, I think our discussion of Kamikaze Kid is in the books, but settle down, you JDs, because after the break, we will be back with our interview with Holly Fields.
The QLP is brought to you by listeners like you. Please go to patreon.com/quantumleappodcast and give as much as you can. For as little as $1 a month, you can be a contributor to the Quantum Leap podcast. It goes to covering our server cost and helps keep the podcast going. Thank you.
I'm Christopher DeFilippis, and it's time for the Quantum Leap radio sightings, where I tell you about all of the vintage radios that appear in Quantum Leap. And we've arrived at Season 1, Episode 7, by a reason the Quantum Leap radio sightings exist. But more on that in a minute. Camikazi Kid continues the first season tradition of Radiomania, featuring 3 radios, 2 of which appear in Cheryl's bedroom, in the same scene. The first is a 1956 Packard Bell 5R1, sitting on Cheryl's dresser. This is the second time we've seen this model radio on the show, but not this set. The first was in How the Test Was Won, where I remarked on the radio's unique deco dial, which makes it look like an old-time elevator floor indicator. The 5R1 seen in Tess is brown and gold. The one we glimpsed in Camikazi Kid is white and gold. Now, the 5R1 was a popular kit radio that people could build at home, and it came in tons of colors. And since it came out in 1956, it's just fine being on Cheryl's dresser during Sam's leap date of 1961. The second radio in Cheryl's room is parked on her nightstand, and for the life of me, I can't figure out what kind it is. What I can tell you is that it's red, and that it's a portable model with a carrying strap. It looks about right for the late 50s, so I'm gonna say no anachronism. Now, the third and final radio in Camikazi Kid, that's the one that started it all. I was sitting in my office with this episode on in the background, and I looked up when I heard the Everly Brothers singing Let It Be Me. It's one of my favorite songs. And what I saw was a nice close-up of a Philco radio, sitting under a shoeshine chair. As the shot pulled back to reveal Sam and Al, I could only focus on the radio. What model? What year? Did it belong in 1961? Thus, the insanity began, and I've been spotting radios on Quantum Leap ever since. And I'm happy to report that the Philco is not anachronistic. It's a 1952 Model 52-547 clock radio. It's a beautiful two-tone set with a cream cabinet and a red front. The dial is on the left, sitting flat on top of the radio, and you spin it with your thumb. And it sits right above the gold-trimmed clock, which has a turquoise face. The speaker grill is on the right, and it consists of 35 large holes, and yes, I counted, and they're also flanked in gold trim. It's such an interesting-looking radio that I'm not surprised the director started the scene with a close-up, and I am so glad he did. You might also be interested to know that it was about 10:15 a.m. when Cheryl left for the Peace Corps. So, how many times have you guys raced for pinks?
So many times.
It's all I ever do.
In the mom-mobile.
I have spent so much money on cars just because I keep losing them.
How many people these days know what racing for pinks even means? Like what that phrase would even mean?
I gotta be honest with you. I mean, hey, everyone, we're back. But I only know it from watching Happy Days, like in the 70s.
Did
so
they do
at
that
least
a lot?
I had some kind of frame of
pinks.
It's just that kind of like that terminology. It's just shorthand slang for 60s.
Yes.
You know? I mean, did they say they were going to race for pinks in Greece too?
Was Greece 60s or 50s? I always think of it as a 50s thing, but
it
No, I
feels
think
like something where there would have been pinks and racing
Right.
and stuff.
Yeah, but it's still, it's sort of that DNA. You know what I saw on Paramount Plus? They're doing a show called The Rise of the Pink Ladies. So you got your pinks, you got your pink ladies, you got your T-Birds, you got the Impalas, who had these neat gray jackets in this episode. Right?
yeah, the little cardigans.
Hey, you know, everything was cool in the 60s. And I love the fact that Sam leapt in sweating and smoking. Right? Again, just another like genuine touch.
He was sweating out all the pizza grease, just. He leaps. I love when he leaps in smoking because he's always like.
Smoking's bad.
Yeah. He really he was mean to Cam. He's like, ew, covered in zits. I'm a grosso. But he was smoking and he was driving. He was a little bit of a bad boy, nerdy bad boy.
It was a bad boy, and it was hot, He was, he was lived in. He leapt into
if
a very lived in
If he
character.
leaped in and he was already sweaty, was it Cam's sweat that was on him?
That's what I'm thinking.
Gross.
Right? Exactly. No wonder why it was so skeeved.
Yeah.
Anyway, hey, didn't we promise everybody an interview with Holly Fields?
Hey.
Hey, all
Speaking
right,
of not
so-
gross, cool lady, Holly Fields.
Yes.
We are very lucky today to have on the Quantum Leap podcast. You may know her from many film roles and also television, and she does a lot of voiceover work. Jill from the episode of Quantum Leap, Camikazi Kid, Holly Fields.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Great to have you on here. Great to have you on
Thank
here.
you.
Thank you.
Oh, it's fun to be on here. Quantum Leap is one of my favorite shows ever, so I'm very proud to represent it.
We have that in common.
Oh, good.
We reviewed the show you were in a couple episodes back, and we really enjoyed it and thought you were really good in it.
Oh, thank you so much. It was so much fun. I almost ended up not doing it, actually, so that's...
How did that happen?
Well, I had auditioned that day for a TV series it was Chris Carter's series called Brand New Life with Barbara Eden, and I went to network for the second time, and I was told I had it by Chris Carter, and I was his choice, but NBC had seen my episode of MacGyver where I played a hooker, and they're like, well, she can't play nice, she plays hookers. Meanwhile, I'm the opposite of the hooker. I'm the nice girl. But so I was so devastated. So I had this audition for this new show called Quantum Leap. I had never heard of it. The sides didn't make sense to me because 1 minute he's called Sam and then Cam. I thought it was like a mistype. And I almost didn't go on the callback. And I did, thankfully. And no one had heard of it. It was the third episode ever. So I went and I got it. And I am so thankful for going on that.
What was it like, your experience filming Quantum Leap?
Oh, it was so much fun. I was just a kid. I was 13, and I had the best time ever. Scott Bakula and Dean Stockwell are two of the nicest guys I've ever worked with, and I've worked with a lot of great actors and nice people, but Scott, by far, is one of the kindest men ever. So it was pretty exciting, pretty fun, and the crew was incredible. Don Belisario is really well known for picking out a fantastic crew that gets along and just a very happy set.
Do you have any funny stories of things that happened during the filming?
I do, actually. Yes, it was my first kiss ever. So I am getting to kiss Scott Bakula on screen. He's very, very tall. And so they had to put me on apple boxes. So we're at the train station in Los Angeles, and I'm on this apple box and dressed in 1950s clothing and doing the kiss, and it's my first kiss, and my mom's there taking photos behind a tree, and just very, very, the whole crew's watching you, and I was so scared because I had never kissed anybody, and I was the kid, and he was so sweet about it, and more fatherly, which was strange, but just it was very embarrassing, and then they knew how embarrassed I was about it, so I thought they were joking when they said we have to film the kiss again. I'm like, yeah, right. And they said, no, we have all this stuff behind it. And it was the first time they ever had him disappear during a kiss. So we actually really had to reshoot it. So we're reshooting it at Universal with the sky in the background so they could make him disappear easier. And they were doing Dick Tracy next door. So Madonna was there, Warren Beatty, the whole crew and cast had just gotten out for lunch. So they're all there now watching the kiss.
Wow.
Because we're in the back lot between sound stages filming this kiss up against the sky, and so embarrassing. And I just worked with Madonna on a Pepsi commercial, so she came over to say hi, and that was pretty cool. And so my first kiss was in front of like about 300 people, and I'm standing on apple boxes, and it was my mom taking photos. So
I'm sure that could be overwhelming for a 13-year-old girl, huh?
Yeah, you know what? It was, but it wasn't. Thinking back, I was embarrassed about it more so than scared, but I look back now and it's pretty cool to have your first kiss on camera and with Scott Bakula. So,
is he a good kisser?
Oh yeah, and he was just so sweet because it was a sweet, innocent kiss. So
you were 13 and he was 35 at the time. Was there any weirdness about that?
No, because he's such a kind man. He was just one of the most upstanding men ever, just so sweet and respectable. He even let me use his dressing room when he wasn't using it, this big trailer. I had just started acting, and so he wanted to give me confidence, and he set all of the tapes to my scenes so I could watch them in his trailer. And he just gave me a key, said, lock up when you're done. I mean, who does that? It's so rare to find an actor that is that kind. So he is just, I cannot say enough wonderful things about this man. He's wonderful. And so and I've run into him since, and we still talk, and he's just a great guy.
You hear that from a lot of people, so it must be true.
Oh, he's incredible. I would actually go by after, anytime I was at Universal, and I'd hang out on the set and hang out with Don Belisario, and I got to do JAG again with them, and I always got to hang out with Scott, and he's like, come here, come and watch, come and see this new set, and come to lunch, and just a great guy. It still is a great guy, even with all his fame now.
I loved you on that episode of JAG. Your character was really good, and
oh, thank you.
All the emotion you had to have in that episode, it was pretty amazing. And Dean Stockwell was also in that episode. Were you able to reconnect with him in that episode, or? Yes.
I look so different than I did on Quantum Leap because as a kid on Quantum Leap, an adult on JAG, and for a while he was like, I can't remember because I was a little kid. But I used to go by and talk with him. After I did the episode of Quantum Leap, and he and I would sit and talk. For like an hour during one of his breaks, like after they filmed it, even like 2 years after I'd filmed the episode, I would still go by and we'd sit and hang out. So yeah, but it was so much fun reconnecting with him and Don. I love Don Belisario too.
If he likes somebody, he seems to keep recasting him in all his projects, so that's a good thing.
Yes, he does. He tried to cast me again in Quantum Leap, actually 2 episodes after I had just done, I think 2 or 3. I had just done the Kamikaze Kid, and they couldn't find a girl for this next episode they were casting, and they had me come to Universal to just wait while they had the callbacks. And they said, if we can't find anybody, you're going to go right to wardrobe, and then we're filming the next day. So I came and sat and waited, but they found Amy Foster, who was fantastic. So I was bummed, but I was happy for her. So
what was it like to work with Jason Priestley?
Oh, it's so much fun. He and I had just done MacGyver, not the same episode, but we both had just done MacGyver, and we had a lot in common for some reason. And we got along really, really well. We were both newcomers, and I love him. He's a great guy. The whole cast, everyone they cast on that episode, I still see a lot of them and talk with them still.
So it was a really positive experience for you?
Extremely. Like it's funny because that's, I think, one of the first things, I think maybe the third show I had ever done, and everyone kept saying, just so you know, it's not all this fun. Like, not all sets are this fun. I'm like, yeah, they are. And I haven't really had a bad experience ever on a set. But they had the Quantum Leap crew and cast and the whole set. That was a different experience, than any other set I've been on. It definitely was starting off at the top, and you'll never find a cast and crew that fantastic.
Well, that's good. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
When you were filming the scene, when your character, Jill, was installing the nitrous oxide in the car, did they give you direction that they were going to speed up your voices to make it sound like helium?
No, they had explained to us what was going to happen, but they didn't tell us how it was going to be done. I'm not sure if they knew at the time. Well, maybe they did, but they didn't tell us about it. They did say they didn't tell us exactly how it was going to happen, but they said that we're going to change it a bit, so just do it like a normal scene, and we'll take care of it.
Cool. We have some questions for you from our listeners that they sent in.
Cool.
This question is from Peter. He asks, as someone who is playing off Scott Bakula, did you ever meet or interact with the real Cam?
Oh, no. You know what, did I? Gosh. The character playing Cam, the real Cam, I didn't. I didn't, actually. Everything was, all my scenes were with Scott.
This question is from Andrew. You've had a lot of roles over the years, with vocal work being more prevalent as of late. What type of work do you prefer, and why?
Well, I was on the OC, recurring on the OC, and I had a really bad car accident, so I actually kind of messed up my back. So I had to take a break for a while with on camera, which is why I got more into voiceover. And thankfully, I got really lucky, and it took off. In voiceover, you make more money than on camera. It's crazy. You go in, you don't have to worry about what you look like or anything, and it's more based on your voice. So it's actually harder to get, but I got really lucky, and I started doing a lot of stuff for Cameron Diaz and tons of other really great actors. So for some reason, I have been acting since I was a kid, so I really loved the voiceover work because it was a change of pace and a challenge, because for Cameron Diaz, like right now I'm working for her on a movie called The Other Woman. with the director of The Notebook, Nick Cassavetes, who is the most amazing director. So I'm very thankful for working with him. And I love Cameron Diaz. But it's challenging because you have to, do well acting, of course, for them, and sound like them, and watch their lips and copy what they're saying all at the same time. So I'm liking the challenge. I love challenges. So I'm actually, I'm doing a lot of films right now. I went back to acting last year for on camera, but I really love the voiceovers. I love working on Star Wars more than anything. And I loved working on Shrek, too. That was so much fun.
Yeah, you did a lot of work for Shrek.
Tons of work. Yeah, a lot of it's on IMDb. I think I've done like 300 something. I don't even know how many projects for Shrek for all over the world. And it's so much. I love the character Princess Fiona, and I just adore Cameron Diaz. So that's been such a fun job.
I guess when you can voice match someone that well, pretty much the character, you own it.
Yeah, it's scary. I'm voice matching her now. I just started I've been doing it, for 2 months now for the other woman, and her voice has changed. So it's been a major challenge because she's in this. She plays edgy, and they keep telling me, make your voice more, not so sweet, because I'm used to Princess Fiona, and she's got the sweet voice. So I learned Cameron Diaz's voice for that. So now her voice has changed. So I'm having to adjust my voice to be edgier. So it's such a fun job. It's hard to explain how it works, but you just go in, and it's very stressful actually, because it is only your voice. You're not getting to act with your face or your body. You just stand there and put an earphone against one ear and have to sound just like them. And there's so much more to it than on camera acting. And
you did voice matching for Drew Barrymore as well, right?
Yes. Yes. That was fun for Beverly Hills Chihuahua. And she's awesome. I went to high school with her, so that was pretty cool getting to voice her. And Brittany Murphy, who was one of my best friends, and Leslie Mann, and Jennifer Love Hewitt. Paula Abdul. I've voice matched a lot of people. It's so much fun trying to get into sound like somebody else. It comes from singing. I've sung my whole life, so it's fun. I can match pretty easily. It's some people easier than others.
Yeah, because those people don't really sound a lot alike. So to be able to
No, they don't. No, Drew Barrymore and Cameron Diaz do, but yeah, their other ones have been pretty hard, but it's a fun challenge. So I love doing it.
And you did many other roles. I was looking at your IMDb and going back and watching old episodes of things and realizing I'd seen you in them, like Alf and Charmed. Yeah. What was it like working with Alf?
Oh, Alf! Oh, that was actually an interesting experience because there were a lot of people trying to direct. Like, I had the director telling me to play it just the way I was playing it, but the guy playing Alf didn't want me to play it a certain way, and then the producers wanted it an opposite way. So I remember doing that show thinking, oh my God, this is so stressful, because everyone was telling me to play it opposite than the other person. So one person was telling me to play it kind of, she was more like a dingbat kind of character. But then the guy playing Alf was like, don't play it like that. So I was having like 5 different people telling me how to play it, and they were all telling me how to play it differently. So that was a very stressful situation, but fun.
A lot of people remember you from that episode of Charmed where the guy was trapped in the painting.
Yeah, I was actually supposed to be the youngest sister on Charmed. That was a hard one. I had that part. The middle sister actually is who I was supposed to play. And then Holly Marie Combs decided she wanted to play it. And she was Shannon Doherty's best friend, so I was told all of a sudden I wasn't going to play it. So they tested me for the youngest, and I was told I had it. And then they hired a girl that was under contract with Warner Brothers. And then she decided after the pilot, she didn't want to do the show, so they called me and said, can you start on Monday? And this was a Friday. And they said, we have one other person that we're interested in and she's a very big name actress. And I was like, okay, I understand. And they didn't tell me who. And it was Alyssa Milano, so she said yes to it, so I didn't get to do it. So I was really bummed because it would have been so much fun doing that show. I had a blast doing it, but I do love Alyssa Milano, so I totally understand it. I loved working with her, but that was a hard thing, getting told you had the show and then not getting it 3 times, actually. So,
ouch.
Ouch, yes. But I've had that happen a lot. There's been so many shows. Like, I passed on Stargate. Oh, that's
my goodness.
Ever. Yeah. I've made a lot of mistakes.
What character did you go up for in Stargate? It
was any role I wanted. I had done MacGyver for them. It was Michael Greenberg. And he and I were speaking one day, and he said, hey, do you want to be on Stargate, and I have this thing where I don't want anyone to ever think I'm their friend to get apart. And because there's so many people like that in LA, and I'm not that way. So I was like, no, it's okay. You don't have to give me apart. And he's like, yeah, I'd like to. And I was young, and I get it now. Like, you want to work with your friends because you know they're going to show up and know their lines, and you know them. And it's better than hiring someone that you're not sure what's going to happen. So I passed on it. And anyway, and I love Richard Dean Anderson. He's such a great guy. I ended up going to the set and visiting when I was up there filming Sentinel. It filmed up in Canada, and I love sci-fi, so that would have been so much fun to do.
That would have been awesome. Yeah,
I've made a lot of mistakes, and managers I've had and agents have had me pass on stuff that it ended up doing really well, but you live and learn, and it's okay.
So you're working on a Star Wars project right now?
Yes. Yeah, that's really fun to do. And I get to do my own voice for a change, so that's pretty cool. I get to develop the character, and I got to speak at Comic-Con twice, and I'm the biggest fan of Star Wars.
What's your character like in that game?
Well, and for anyone who's played it, I could say it now. For like 2 years when I was working on it, we weren't allowed to talk about it at all. But now I can talk about her. Well, at first I am the nice, sweet girl. I think I'm the Empress in this one. It's been so long since I did the first one. And then I become a Jedi Knight, and then I go to the dark side. So there's a whole arc, and I love that. And she's a kick-ass kind of character, which I love to play. So she's a pretty cool girl. Like, I wish I were more like her in real life, but it's a great character.
Do you know what the name of the game is and when it'll be out?
I don't. It's actually, I don't know when it's going to be out, but it's still called Star Wars: The Old Republic.
Is that harder doing for video games because you have to do so many different reactions, so many different takes, so many different things that might happen in the game?
Yes and no. Like, when you're doing on camera, I think it's a lot easier because you're acting with your body. When you're having to just stand there in a room by yourself because you're not interacting with any other actors, they add your voice in later with theirs. You're getting sometimes a cue line from the guy in the other room. So, like, I'm doing a love scene with a microphone, pretty much. Like, when you're doing a on-camera role, you're getting to actually act with somebody else in front of you. And when you're reacting, it's so much easier. But when you have nobody there to act with, it is actually pretty hard to do that. So you have to really use your imagination. So, but especially the love scenes, I'm making out with my finger. and then just I have like all these guys from Star Wars and all the producers watching me. It's really embarrassing, but it's really fun. I'm thankful for it.
We had another question from one of our listeners, Andrew Garber. He asks, will you marry him?
Sure. I'm just kidding. That's so sweet. I can't answer that yes or no. If he's a good guy, I consider it.
Well, hey,
I'm
that's
single,
something.
So yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
So maybe, Andrew, you never know.
Possibly, yes.
I understand you're involved in some charity work. Big
time, yes. I am a big, big, big animal lover. I've rescued dogs my whole life and cats and animals. And it's so funny. I went to a party, and I'm talking to this guy in the room, and I hear the band Toto mentioned. I didn't really know the band that well. And I was like, yeah, I know. I thought I knew the lead singer. I thought it was my friend Nikki Fries, who's actually the lead singer of Shalimar. And I'm telling this guy, oh, yeah, I know the lead singer. And he's like, what's his name? I'm like, well, Mickey Fries. He goes, no, I don't think that's the lead singer. I'm like, yeah, it is. I promise you. So I go out, and I'm talking to this other woman and sitting there, and this guy walks over, and she's like, this is my husband, Bobby Kimball, and he's in the band Toto. The guy I had been speaking to is the lead singer. I was so embarrassed. He is the nicest guy you will ever meet besides Scott Bakula. He was laughing. I'm like, why didn't you tell me you were the lead singer? I feel so stupid. And we've become the best of friends ever since. It's been, I think, 5 years now. And I've done backup for Toto and backup, for Bobby when he sings. And we do animal charity events for the vet and the veterans, and not veterinarians, the veterans. And we've done a lot of great functions where he sings, and Bill Champlin from the band Chicago sings, and a lot of huge singers come. And we've raised a lot of money, and we also do photos of animals that need homes with a celebrity. And we shoot the photo, we put it up on the internet, and we find homes for these dogs. So it's been pretty awesome.
Is there any way people can find out more information about that?
Yeah, they can go to Saving Canine Lives on Facebook. And there are photos up there and dogs that need homes. And a pretty cool foundation, and we make no money from it whatsoever. It's just doing it for the dogs, and we're going to expand it to everything else, like cats, and we want to do an elephant foundation as well. So we're working on that right now.
My daughter's favorite animal. She's about 14 months old, and she loves elephants.
Oh, really? Oh, that's so cute. What's her name?
Serenity.
Oh, I love that name. Is that from the TV show?
Firefly.
Yes, I love Firefly. Okay, I knew that. Now I am definitely a sci-fi person.
Yeah, most people say that's beautiful, or is that from Firefly? I say yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you so much, Holly.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed your work on Quantum Leap.
Thank you, and have a wonderful holiday and a great new year to everybody that's listening.
Well, Allison, you were right. She is not gross. Wasn't she delightful?
Yeah.
She's lovely.
Yeah. That was, we said that's a 10-year-old interview.
Yeah.
And thank you, Albie, for getting that. I think she was the second person we had ever spoken to as an interviewee on the show. I think he mentioned that.
I think he said
he
said in Facebook just now, my first interview was in the first edition of this episode. So it might have been his first interview.
Yeah.
I thought it was Claudia Christian, but...
So did I. Maybe he's forgetting. It was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So maybe it blends, I wouldn't have known unless I had looked it up. So, thank you, Holly, for being on the show way back when. I know that you're still active in the fan community, and I think Albie, still sometimes keeps in touch with her. Sometimes they'll comment back and forth on stuff. So,
oh, that's nice.
Yeah, just super cool lady. It's just funny the way that, she describes the kiss, and it really was as innocent as they wanted to portray it on screen.
Sure.
By all accounts, So I'm glad that we were able to sort of tackle that elephant in the room as well. So, yeah. But surprise! Scott and Dean are the greatest people on earth. Who knew?
The first of many people to say that.
Yeah. Right. So yeah, and good job, Albie. Didn't sound like your first interview at all. You sounded like a pro.
He's so good at coming up with great questions, talking to people.
Yeah.
I'm so jealous. Every time I hear Albie interview somebody, whenever I'm interviewing somebody, to me it sounds like I am interviewing somebody. Albie just sounds like he's talking to him.
Yeah.
And he's just got this
so
wonderful... And you know what? It reminded me because the Holly Fields interview, Holly was talking about so much voice work that she does and like how it's different than like camera work. And Albie's recent interview with Tiffany Smith, which I listened to this morning as well, she talks about the exact same thing because she does a ton of voiceover work. So Albie is, he's got it with the voice actors. But yeah, it struck me the similarity between the two interviews, that his first one and his most recent one, and just killing it every time. Albie, good job. Thank you so much.
Great job, Albie.
Yay! Thank you so much again to Holly, and maybe we'll get Jason Priestley the next time we do this.
Heck yeah, that'd be amazing. Talk to Jason Priestley. Be like, tell us about pencil, my man.
We'll have to go around again and again. We'll figure it out. So eventually we'll go around a third round on the original series. What do you think? Or is that when we just hang it up, or we pass on the mantle to someone else? No, we still have to talk to Jason Priestley. So we at least have to take it back around to Kamikazi Kid. So you're all stuck
unless Jason shows up in the new series as like an older pencil.
That would be perfect.
Can you imagine?
I'm writing
they
that
never do any other callbacks. They just have older pencil. The one character they decide they're gonna leap back to. Why?
Somehow he's a friend of Magic's. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I'm writing that script right now. Good, Matt. You're gonna get a story by credit on that.
Oh, thank you.
Well, speaking of that last episode, Paging Dr. Song, that featured Tiffany Smith, we have some feedback about it. We got an email from a listener named Kelly, and the title was Comment on Paging Dr. Song. I will begin. Hi, I've been listening to your podcast since the new Quantum Leap started, and I've really been enjoying it. You guys have some great theories and discussions, and I love all the interviews you do. I wanted to comment on a discussion you guys had about the opening scene of the last episode. You were saying that it seemed like Ben did an entire shift before Addison got there. I had a different interpretation of that scene.
I thought that the leapy, Dr. Tompkinson, was leaving her shift at the hospital when Ben leaped in, which is why she was outside. Then she gets roped into delivering the baby when Ben leaps in and he goes back into the hospital. Addison comes in at this point, so it hadn't actually been that long.
If this is true, it would make sense for Sandra to comment that Alex was supposed to have left already. I'm not sure if that's what the writers were going for, but that's the way I saw the scene. Anyway, I just wanted to share my thoughts on that. Love what you guys are doing. Kelly.
Well, it makes as much sense as anything, I suppose.
Yeah, I reflected on, after our discussion, I reflected on it and came to the same conclusion, but then I started twisting my mind up thinking, it was pitch black outside, and then it's like, it's right. How it still doesn't quite add up?
They must have been near the hospital, I guess. I thought that they would have gone in, but I misremembered. There is a stretcher in that scene. So it seems like
the
they're
hospital
near...
car park. For sure. It's got to be.
Yeah, that wasn't really clear to me. So I guess they're there, but yeah, the fact it's like pitch black and then like the middle of the afternoon when we see him next, I don't know.
Yeah,
but...
the lighting is an odd choice, but everything else, what Kelly says, makes absolute sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't see it in the middle. I saw it as early morning, but and I feel like I put this in specifically because I was listening back after I edited that episode. Once you're in the edit, like you're in the weeds, you don't really get it. You're just getting the words right, you know? Mm-hmm. And then I was listening to it back and I'm like, wow, we really belabored that point for no reason.
Yeah, so that's true.
I think
some things interest us
a little bit. So thank you, Kelly, for, just saying, hey, guys.
This is probably what happened.
We are very happy that you started listening with the new show. We hope that you're listening for the classic episodes as well, like this one.
Or you won't know what our response was.
Exactly. If you're not a fan of the original series, I mean, now is the perfect time to jump on board because it's on Peacock as well. And there's just a lot of terrific stuff to see. But thank you for jumping onto the podcast with the new show.
Yeah, thanks.
Plenty more on that to come. And we hope you keep on enjoying it. Thank you, Kelly. I also wanted to include some good comments that we got on the YouTube channel in response to our recent interview with Dean Georgaris. The user handle Marjoram wrote, "You guys have done a great job in putting together great interviews this season." Actually, no. Albie and Matt have done a great job.
Oh, yeah.
I've just
it's
been
all
along
them.
for the ride. Yeah, it's all them. Anyway, but you guys, okay, I'll take it. I'm one of those guys. I am loving the energy and excitement of the guests and hearing the behind the scenes of their particular jobs. I'm learning a lot and am very entertained, at least for Quantum Leap, but for other shows also likely, I won't be fast forwarding through the end credits anymore. I will be interested to see who is working on each episode. Great job. And I got to tell you, that's why I love the interviews where we talk with the crew. I love talking to the cast. I love talking to the actors, but man, that crew stuff that's where I get all geeky and knowing like who does what and why and how it all fits together. As a former TV producer myself, I just find that stuff endlessly fascinating. I'm glad that others are finding the same thing. And to the point where you're going to watch the credits. Who are you, Matt Dale?
Only if you're writing them down as well.
I'm glad that it's that not only are people interested in watching these interviews or listening to them, but it also is making them interested in how shows are made because there's just so much that goes into it, and everyone has a story. So yeah, like that's why I am interested in the interviews, and I'm glad that it's appealing to so many more people. So thanks.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun to arrange and to do. So the fact that anyone else gets pleasure out of them is a wonderful added bonus. We love doing them.
You always do a great job, Matt.
Oh, thank you.
You do, Matt.
Thanks.
Yeah, you went from Mr. I'm so nervous about this to like, no, I got it. No, I got it.
You're a pro now.
Oh my God, the Leo Sart interview, I was so terrified. Oh my goodness me. But yeah, it's so much fun now.
Yeah, well, listen, you've grown into it admirably, and I love the fact that
that's a glow up.
Yeah, a glow up. I don't know, but and I love the fact that you're available in the middle of the day when we're not, when we're all working to do this stuff. So that I think that has a lot to do with it. Thank you for stepping up in that regard as well.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very handy.
Yeah.
So. We have another comment on the Georgaris interview. Allison, why don't you take this one?
This is from Mansion Lover.
I love mansions.
Mansion Lover. And they say, loving the interviews you are getting, guys. I must admit that the only thing I really want from season 2 is the return of Ziggy. LOL.
Oh,
Yeah.
Guess what, Mansion Lover? You're not alone.
It ain't never gonna happen. But it'd be great.
Well, it's gonna kind of happen. It's gonna kind of happen for our podcast anyway, because we've been in sort of informal chats with a certain Ziggy actress. Voiceover actor.
Yes.
Yeah. So Deborah has approached Albie and I think Matt as well about coming back sometime in February, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's really keen to get back and talk about. She's got an episode coming up in a few weeks, so we'll be able to talk to her about that.
She directed episode 13 of this new season. This is the first time that she's directed an episode of Quantum Leap. It
Yeah.
seems
You're
hard to
kidding.
believe.
Big
She wrote a
stuff.
lot, and obviously she was an executive producer, but she, this is the first time directing one of them, so I'm really excited to see what she does.
Wow. Do we know the title of that episode, or is it just untitled episode 13?
Yeah, it's and I just want to share this part of the story. When she messaged me a few weeks back, saying before anyone knew the title of the story, saying, "Oh yeah, I'm really looking forward to you seeing this. I directed an episode. It's a nice little episode, family style." And I was just like, "Oh, that's a nice way to describe it." And I thought that's just what she was like. Oh, it's just a little family episode. And then a few days later, some of the sources that we used started quoting "family style" as the name of the episode.
Huh.
Like, is that like when you go to an In-N-Out and you get an animal style?
I don't know what I all I can think of is like a Butera's or a La Familia. It's an Italian restaurant where you get like giant portions at the table. So is that the same thing?
Family style. That's what the
It's
episode's
family
going to be about, I'm sure.
Yeah. Is it all going to be them like sitting around the table eating a meal?
Yeah.
That would be a departure.
I feel like that's also going to be a lead up to a very important episode. As Dean Georgiera said, it was going to be episode 14 was going to be very important. So I expect in the Deborah episode for there to be a cliffhanger of sorts.
Ooh. And here I thought it was just going to be a shot of Ben saying, "Yeah, I'll have the eggplant," and then
I
cut
would
back to the
gladly
project.
watch that
and
too.
Janice is escaping, and everyone's and the elevator's in lockdown, and the sirens are going off of the project, and then cut back to Ben saying, "This soup is pretty good." And then cut back to the project.
It's like my dinner with Ben, and the whole thing is just one dinner with him while everything else is going haywire at the project.
That'd be pretty cool.
Amazing.
Oh
man, I can't wait to talk
I can't stay.
I can't wait to talk to Deborah Pratt about this. I'm real excited to hear what her experience was.
Yeah, and it's also going to be really great to talk to her because the last time we had her on, it was to promote the new show, and she couldn't say a goddamn thing about the new show.
Now she can give us all the deets.
Yeah.
Some of the deets. We're going to get half the deets, and then we'll have her on again after the season is over. Just like Dean said, he wanted to come back after the season was over. So we got plenty of stuff lined up for the hiatus. I think that we're going to get a lot of good interviews in retrospect so that we can discuss season 1 as a whole finally. It's going to be great. So, Deborah, thank you so much for reaching out. We will for sure arrange to have you on. I'd like to maybe, guys, do that as another special so that we can run it on one of the off weeks when they have like a hiatus. Not a hiatus, but, they've been doing breaks lately, like 2 weeks on, 1 week off, 1 week on, 2 weeks off. So
yeah, there's going to be some
do
other
something
breaks
like that.
coming up. I don't think they have another 2-week break, but there are going to be some breaks.
Maybe we can tease it in the episode proper and then make sort of an event and release it on its own, because if it's one thing we know about talking to Deborah, we can always go for a couple hours with her. She's so great.
For sure.
Yeah, so got that to look forward to. So, yeah, that's great. So thank you to Marjoram and Mansion Lover and to Kelly. If you would like to be like them and tell us what you think about Camikazi Kid or the new Quantum Leap, there are many ways that you can do so. You can write us a letter at P.O. Box 542, Bayport, New York, 11705. You can get us by phone at 707-847-6682. You can email us at quantumleappodcast@gmail.com. You can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/quantumleappodcast. You can hit us up on Twitter or Instagram at Quantum Leap Pod. You can also watch us on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Quantum Leap Podcast. And you can always go that extra mile and support us on Patreon at patreon.com/Quantum Leap Podcast. Just remember that we may be using your response on an upcoming episode of the Quantum Leap Podcast. And speaking of coming up next, Matt, tell us what we're doing.
Oh, this is a double whammy of awesomeness, because the next classic episode, or the next classic discussion we're going to be having, is going to be about the novel Pulitzer, which everyone thinks is fantastic. It's one of the highest regarded novels. And the next new series episode is going to be the Groundhog Day-esque Robert Picardo guest starring Leap, Die, Repeat.
We are dealing with a time loop.
What kind of Groundhog Day is this? I could be stuck here forever.
Quantum Leap, January 30th on NBC.
I mean, it doesn't get better than that. Yeah. We've got a fantastic novel and hopefully a fantastic episode coming up to talk about in the next couple of weeks.
Nothing but bangers.
Yeah, I tell you. And see, I said Kamikaze Kid was filthy. Allison, it's rubbed off on you, but
banger isn't a filthy thing. You're making it filthy.
Anyway, that's where lawyers come from. I'm just glad that we have some time to read Pulitzer, because I think it's like 400 and something pages. It's a long book.
Chunker.
Yeah, it's a long book with teeny print. So yeah. We're going to need some time to get through it. So we're giving all of you fair warning out there in the Quantum Leap Podcast Book Club. Rev up those bookmarks, because for sure you're going to need it for Pulitzer. I don't think that's going to be a one-seating read like Search and Rescue or The Wall. I think that one's going to take a couple, for me anyway. So, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm so looking forward to Leap, Die, Repeat. Can't wait to see that. So yeah, rubbing my hands together in glee and anticipation, and we'll be talking about that. But until that time, I have been Christopher DeFilippis.
I've been Allison Pregler.
And I've been Matt Dale.
And we'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Quantum Leap Podcast, hosted by Allison, Matt, and Chris, with voice talent and contributions from Hayden McQueenie and Zoe Dean. To support the show, please go to patreon.com/Quantum Leap Podcast. The executive producer of the Quantum Leap Podcast is Albert Burge. Christopher DeFilippis and Hayden McQueenie are the co-executive producers. Special thanks to our producers, Chris, aka Brackmang, Mike Covert, Joshua Burwald, Jeff Kiska, Craig Riedler, Cosplay Dad, Charles Allen Gossard, and Morgan Felden. The thoughts expressed on this podcast are those of the individual and do not necessarily represent those of the Quantum Leap Podcast, its partners, or affiliates. The Quantum Leap universe and all it contains is the property of Belisarius Productions and Universal Television. The Quantum Leap Podcast is not affiliated with Belisarius Productions or Universal Television, and no copyright infringement is intended. The Quantum Leap Podcast is a Barren Space production.
Bangers isn't filthy. It's just, you got bangers and mash. That ain't filthy.
That sounds pretty filthy to me. I don't know.
I tried to make chunker sound filthy, but I don't know if I pulled it off.
And I'm walking, and I'm walking, and I'm climbing.
I'm walking here.
Okay, I'm walking here. That way she can do.
I was just thinking, glide and step, and glide and step, and glide and step.
All right. Albie, good job. Thank you so much.
Great job, Albie.
Yay!
Mister, who you talking to?